Hey there besties! Welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to continue the recap of the manhwa Depths of Malice. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy the video because it really helps our channel grow. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get started. Count Todd woke up the next morning groaning as a pounding headache assaulted his senses. Confusion enveloped him as he struggled to recall the events of the previous night. "Where am I?" he muttered, his hand instinctively moving to his throbbing head. "The last thing I remember is going to the Peach of May," he said softly, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. His memories flashed back to the unsettling encounter with his supposed escort, which ended in injury. Fear gripped him as he remembered the events from the previous day. "Hey! Is anyone out there?" he called out, his voice echoing with desperation. "Come quickly," he pleaded, unable to mask the sharp pain he felt. "Oh my, you've finally come to, Count Todd," Blaine Shade remarked as he entered the room, his tone calm as he leaned casually against the door. "Duke Shade's son? Then does that mean this is the estate of Count Shade?" Todd asked, confused, as he winced in discomfort, his hand instinctively moving to the source of his pain, unable to suppress a groan as he gripped the injured area. "It would be wise for you to refrain from moving too much," Blaine Shade advised as he fetched a chair and settled next to Count Todd's bed. Count Todd grimaced in pain, his mind still foggy from the events of the previous night. "What in the world happened?" he questioned, his voice strained. Blaine studied him carefully before posing his next question. "Do you happen to know about the Peach of May?" he inquired, his tone measured. Count Todd feigned ignorance, his response calculated. "Pardon?" he replied, pretending not to have heard Blaine's question clearly. Blaine raised an eyebrow at Count Todd's response, noting the evasion. "Are you also a patron, Sir Blaine?" Count Todd asked in return, feigning innocence. Blaine Shade frowned at Count Todd's question, his expression stern, causing Todd to flinch involuntarily. That place was an illegal brothel disguised as a store, exploiting young girls, Blaine informed him, feigning ignorance of Count Todd's involvement. Count Todd's innocent facade remained intact as he responded, "Is that so?" His tone was carefully neutral, betraying no hint of guilt. "I received an anonymous tip and found it all to be true when I went to confirm it yesterday." "The nerve to do such a thing within the Shade domain," Blaine remarked, his expression turning fierce. His words carried a weight that silenced Count Todd, sending chills down his spine. "While investigating each room, I found you injured and unconscious," Blaine Shade informed Count Todd. "Unfortunately, I was unable to capture your attacker," he said, maintaining a serious expression. "I see," Count Todd said, trembling as Blaine looked at him. "Your wounds were incredibly severe, so I applied first aid immediately," Blaine said, his tone grave. "However, I'm afraid you'll find it hard to have any more children," he dropped the bombshell, causing Count Todd's eyes to widen in shock. Stunned by the news, Count Todd's eyes filled with misery as he struggled to comprehend the implications. "Sir Blaine, what do you mean?" he asked, horrified by the revelation. Unbeknownst to Count Todd, Rita had been eavesdropping on their conversation. "Quit crying. It's not as if anybody died," she thought coldly. Count Todd, gathering himself despite the pain, inquired of Blaine Shade, "May I ask what you told my household?" Blaine Shade responded calmly, informing him, "I only told them you were gravely injured while assisting me with the raid on the brothel." "Is that so?" "Thank you," Count Todd expressed with gratitude evident in his eyes. "However, I can only lie for so long," Blaine Shade informed the Count with an evil glint in his eyes. "As you may know, the Shade family values honesty," he added with a smile. Rita couldn't help but be surprised by Blaine's words. "Wow, he's something else. Family values, my God," she thought to herself, questioning his authenticity as the son of a duke. "I beg you not to. Please overlook this," Count Todd pleaded earnestly, his desperation evident in his voice. "Then my younger sister, Julia. She intends to join the Royal Guard," Blaine Shade spoke before being interrupted by Count Todd, who grabbed his hand. "I will ensure your sister is admitted." As for promotions, no, I'll make sure she becomes the head of the guard, Count Todd said delightedly, squeezing Blaine Shade's hand in excitement, eager to show his gratitude for Blaine's silence. No, Blaine Shade said firmly, retracting his hand from Count Todd's grasp. Reject her application, he instructed Todd, his tone leaving no room for argument. Make it so she can never even smell a whiff of the royal guard. Do you understand? Blaine Shade instructed Count Todd, his gaze icy. Pardon? Count Todd was taken aback by Blaine Shade's unexpected request. I cannot allow such a small and delicate child to enter the royal guard. If she were to ever get hurt. Blaine began feigning sadness. The notion of his sister, Julia Shade, being described as small and delicate seemed ludicrous to Count Todd. He knew her well enough to understand her strength and determination. If anything were to happen to my sister, Blaine said with a sad expression, his concern evident. I understand. In return, please keep this a secret, Count Todd pleaded, begging Blaine for his silence. I promise you, on Duke Shade's honor. Now please rest until someone from your household comes for you, Blaine instructed Count Todd, his tone firm yet sympathetic. Blaine bowed respectfully before leaving the room. Once outside, he couldn't help but chuckle to himself. To think that she'd requested for him to be neutered, he thought. That's rather cute of her, he remarked, amused by the thought as he continued down the hallway. He knocked on a door. Rita heard a knock on the door. As she was turning, the door opened. She found Blaine Shade standing there. Lady Verta, he greeted her with a bow, which she reciprocated. You were a great help. I must give you my thanks, Blaine Shade expressed his gratitude to Rita. I'm happy to hear I was of help, Rita replied politely. He stared at her as he called her name inwardly. She was confused as she blushed at the feeling of being scrutinized by Blaine's unusual gaze. Blaine stared at Rita with a smirk on his face, his thoughts wandering. It seems like a shame to give her up to another man, he thought, his expression betraying a hint of possessiveness. Please let me know if you ever require my assistance. I'd love to express my gratitude, Blaine said, casting a subtle shade towards Rita. Rita paused momentarily, her expression shifting before she managed a small smile. That gratitude, could you show it to me now? She asked, stepping closer to Blaine with a gentle smile. Blaine was confused at first, but seeing her gentle smile broke his resolve. How may I help you, Lady Verta? Blaine inquired, swiftly taking hold of Rita's waist and pulling her closer. As he released her, Rita removed her gloves, revealing the bruises she had sustained from her encounter with her fiancé and Baron Jackard. What is this? Blaine inquired, surprised as he held Rita's hand, noticing the bruises. Ah, Rita exclaimed softly, wincing a bit as she remembered her encounter with Jean and Baron Jackard. She harbored a grudge against them, intending to settle the score. I had a little accident when my fiancé visited the other day, she explained, holding her hands together. My. He must be quite the red-blooded man. May I ask what it is you need my assistance with? Blaine asked, smiling. Rita's expression turned serious. By chance, do you know of Baron Jackard? She inquired. Blaine wore a perplexed expression upon hearing Rita's question about Baron Jackard, her fiancé's crony. How obvious, he thought. I know that his family has no prestige or wealth despite his title. He is also your fiancé's bodyguard, Blaine informed Rita as he made his way to sit down. Rita thought to herself that this information wasn't news to her. At least that's how he appears on the surface. He is also the owner of an underground shop named the Secret Boutique of Dreams, Blaine added with a smile as he sat down. There you can find many fascinating curios. But only if you know how to find it, he continued. Rita remained silent, absorbing the new information as he smiled. Lady Verta, you're no different from other women after all, Blaine thought as he observed Rita's facial expression. His mind drifted to a recent ball he attended. Duke Shade's son is so handsome this evening, a lady whispered to her neighbor as they watched Blaine converse with a man. How can a man be so good-looking? Another lady said, blushing as they admired Blaine. Enjoying your evening, ladies? Blaine asked the two ladies, revealing a smile. Sir Shade, it's been so long, one lady said. We were just talking about how handsome Sir Hudson is, the second lady stuttered as both ladies glanced at each other, blushing. So handsome that Sir Hudson, they added with a stare as the flashback ended. Unfortunately, there have been many others before you. Talking about another man to stir my envy, Blaine thought with a smirk as he watched Rita. Then, what do you know about my fiancé, Count Jean Lawrence? Rita asked with a seductive look. Blaine was surprised by her words. It wasn't a strategy. She actually wanted to know more about her fiancé, he questioned himself, faking a smile. I would appreciate your honest opinion, Rita smiled as Blaine went mute for a moment. My. How disappointing. A beautiful lady insists on talking about men who aren't myself, he said. Rita responded flirtatiously, oh my, what can I do to improve your mood? Blaine put his hand over his mouth, wearing a seductive grin. Well, your fiancé is a lucky man. If you wish to soothe my jealousy, he said as he tapped his finger on his lip, wearing a seductive look, thinking, how will she react? Rita was shocked at first but smiled slightly before slowly walking towards Blaine, the sound of her shoe echoing in the room. Blaine wondered, what is she doing? As she got next to him, Rita leaned forward, leaving him confused. Breathing softly against Blaine's neck, Blaine blushed instantly, not uttering a word. He's nervous already? Rita thought. Rita pulled Blaine's head next to her neck, sending slight shivers down his spine as she held his face. Blaine opened his mouth in anticipation of a kiss, but Rita did something bewildering. Instead, she turned towards his ears, licking it in a slow, seductive manner. That's mine, Blaine couldn't help but utter words in silent moans as he twitched. Blaine, enveloped in a wave of pleasure, begged for more in his mind, completely immersed in the moment. Suddenly Rita stopped abruptly as she grinned. She leaned forward to his ear and whispered, get a grip. Blaine gasped as he snapped back to reality. Rita leaned back up, adjusting her hair playfully as she smiled. Consider that an early payment. I trust you'll provide me with more information at a later time, she said with a stern gaze, stunning Blaine, who was left unsatisfied. No need to escort me out, Rita added as she slipped her gloves back on. Blaine Shade was left dazed by the encounter. Goodbye for now, Rita said, bidding him farewell as she gracefully left the room. Blaine Shade peered through the windows of the room, reflecting on his recent encounter with Rita. Her ability to unsettle him and her straightforward advice lingered in his thoughts. He realized he had been careless, caught off guard by Rita's demeanor. He couldn't quite pinpoint it, but he now viewed Rita as a potential threat. For now I should maintain my distance, he murmured to himself. Meanwhile, back at the Alberhart manor, Rita hurried into her parlor and sank into a chair, feeling utterly drained. I'll rest for a moment and wash up later, Rita murmured before drifting off to sleep. In her slumber, she found herself enveloped in the soothing scent of herb oil, accompanied by a gentle touch that eased her tension. As she moaned softly in relief, Jana, she called out softly. Are you awake, miss? Ian's voice gently interrupted her thoughts. You looked weary, so I thought a massage might be relaxing, he explained, his gaze fixed on Rita's face. Ah, Rita moaned softly, allowing herself to relax further as Ian continued with his massage. Why does he have to be so good at giving massages? It pisses me off, Rita fumed inwardly, though she couldn't bring herself to ask him to stop. Despite her frustration, she acknowledged the relief his skilled hands provided. I've noticed you've been spending time with the Shade family's son, Ian remarked, pausing his massage and placing his hands on Rita's shoulder. But miss, I worry that being seen so friendly with another man won't bode well for an engaged woman like yourself. As Ian's hands began to slide inappropriately, he suggested, allow me to help you relax some more, miss. In an instant, Rita slapped Ian's hands away and rose from her seat, her expression firm with resolve. I distinctly remember telling you never to show yourself in front of me again, Rita seethed at Ian, her anger palpable. Miss, I am only concerned for your well-being, Ian attempted to explain before Rita's sudden slap sent his glass crashing to the floor. If you dare show yourself again, you'll receive more than this. Rita's tone grew even harsher as she spoke. Ian, visibly flustered and embarrassed, bent to retrieve his glass. My lady's fiancé is the son of the Lawrence family. I only hope you'll consider the reputation of the Alberhart name, he said, his cheeks flushed. What? Rita exclaimed, stunned by his revelation. I shall take my leave now. Rest well, my lady, Ian said with a bow before hastily exiting Rita's presence. How dare he? Rita screamed in frustration, unable to contain her emotions. So you've got someone to back you up, right? Good. But how long can that support really last? Rita thought, a strange expression crossing her face as she wore an unsettling grin. Later in the day, Rita stood before a mirror as Jana held her robe, observing herself. The moment I undress, the scent will be so overpowering that anyone around me will become disoriented, Rita calculated silently. Jana assisted Rita in getting dressed for their mission that night. Miss, here, Jana said, offering Rita something. Perfect, Rita thought to herself, accepting it. Let's go, Jana, Rita ordered. Yes, miss, Jana replied obediently as they both ventured out into the cover of darkness. Rita and her handmaiden Jana walked through the streets in silence until they reached a building adorned with a sign that read, Where all your dreams come true. Rita scoffed internally at the tackiness of it all, though she maintained a fake smile. Did you memorize everything from the note I gave you? Rita inquired of Jana. Of course, miss. Jana replied promptly. And you remember what you must do after? Rita pressed further. Yes, you can trust in me, Jana responded with unwavering obedience. I chose well, Rita mused to herself, her smile reflecting her satisfaction as they entered the shop. They were greeted by an attendant. Welcome, how can I help you? The sales attendant inquired. Rita paused, scanning the shop for a moment before asking, Is this everything in your shop? Yes, my lady, the man replied. As Rita raised her hands, revealing bandages on her hand, the sales attendant was perplexed. Those bandages. It couldn't be, he thought to himself. Rita began in a shy manner, causing the sales attendant to blush instantly. Humph. This shop doesn't have a single thing my lady requires, Jana remarked in a displeased tone while Rita stood behind her quietly. I apologize, the man stuttered nervously. May I ask what you might be looking for? He asked politely. Rita wore a sly smirk as she stepped forward suddenly, her voice laced with faux desperation, something to help a lady sleep and have the deepest dreams. Chills ran down the spine of the sales attendant, rendering him speechless. Rita approached him calmly. I'm looking for Sleeping Beauty, she stated. Blaine Shade, who had briefed Rita earlier about the shop, whispered to her, on the surface, it appears to be an ordinary shop, but its real business is in illegal potions. Illegal potions? Rita exclaimed, taken aback by the revelation. Potent hallucinogens, tranquilizers strong enough for a horse, stimulants that provide energy all night long. I've even heard rumors of a poison that induces a death-like sleep until the user actually succumbs to a cold corpse, Blaine explained. It's ironic that this suicide poison is named Sleeping Beauty, of all things, Rita mused, a slight smirk playing on her lips. The man remained silent. Please, Rita pleaded, reaching out to grasp his hand, which seemed to stun him momentarily. All right, just a moment, the sales attendant finally replied. Meanwhile, in the bustling open market, Lucia turned to Jana. Do you have it? Yes, miss, Jana confirmed with a smile. And if it seems too dangerous, I'll blow the whistle and immediately summon our guards. They exchanged nods, their plan already set in motion. Rita, disguised, walked briskly through the bustling streets of the city, her heart pounding with anticipation. Did he fall for it? She asked herself, her senses alert. Suddenly she heard hurried footsteps, a voice pierced through the crowd, calling out urgently, Stop! Miss Alberhart! He fell for it, she thought, a small smile playing on her lips. The man pushed through the throng of people, determination etched on his face. He reached Rita and grabbed her shoulder, spinning her around to face him. In that moment of revelation, Rita's eyes widened. Holding Rita firmly by the waist, he halted her movement. "Ah, what are you doing?" Rita cried out, her voice tinged with alarm. The Baron's senses were momentarily overwhelmed by the intoxicating fragrance of Rita's perfume. "Miss Alberhart," Jackard said as Rita gasped, his tone firm as he guided Rita into a secluded corner of the street. "I was told you purchased a potion. Are you planning on attempting suicide again?" he questioned, his gaze penetrating as he locked eyes with Rita. "It is none of your concern," Rita replied, her voice steady, showing no sign of fear. "Give it here while I'm asking nicely," Jackard demanded, extending his hand towards Rita. With a cold, determined look, Rita shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. Pressing his hand against the wall, Jackard effectively blocked any escape route for Rita. "Then I have no choice but to take the potion by force," he declared, his tone resolute. He then slid his leg between Rita's, effectively pinning her in place, preventing any attempt to flee. "You brought this upon yourself. Do not resent me too much," Jackard told Rita with a serious expression in his eyes. He reached out and grabbed Rita's cape, ripping it open in the process. With a tight embrace, Jackard attempted to immobilize Rita, preventing her from escaping. His grip tightened as he slid his hand from her waist to hold her in place. "Stop!" Rita exclaimed, shoving him away forcefully. She turned away from him, attempting to put distance between them. Refusing to give up his pursuit, Baron Jackard pressed his body against Rita's, attempting to restrain her further. He held Rita hostage against the wall, his hand continuing to press against her with unwelcome force. "Ah!" Rita moaned softly, trembling slightly from Jackard's unwanted advances. With a sideways glance, she searched for Jana across the street to ensure she was there in case the plan goes awry. However, Jana, hidden in the darkness of the corner, was oblivious to Rita's plight. Surrounded by a crowd, Rita struggled to remain composed. "I should be okay. Just a little longer," she thought to herself, determined to endure the discomfort until she could confirm something important. Realizing that the potion wasn't hidden in her bosom, Jackard quickly withdrew his hand, shifting his focus to a pouch tied at Rita's waist. With a swift yank, he snatched it away, eliciting a cry of protest from Rita. "No!" Rita screamed, her voice filled with desperation. In a swift motion, the Baron seized Rita's hands and pinned her against the wall. "Why are you doing this to me?" Rita pleaded through tears. "Eugene, he's a devil, you know it too," she stuttered. Jackard flinched at her words but remained silent, his resolve unshaken. "This is my only way to escape him," Rita insisted. Finally releasing her, Jackard spoke softly, "Still, you cannot die. Not as long as I am around." With those words he turned and walked away, leaving Rita alone with her turmoil. "Jackard, you love Verta, don't you?" Rita said with a gentle smile. "Miss, are you all right?" Jana cried out, rushing to meet Rita. Explaining her difficulty in seeing, Jana apologized for not being able to call the guards sooner. "I'm sorry, miss," she said, tears welling up as she noticed Rita's ruined cape. "Don't cry, it's all right," Rita reassured her, offering a comforting smile. "I'm quite tired. Let's return to the manor. I'd like some of that tea you make for me. Could you prepare some?" Jana dried her eyes, nodding. "Yes, miss. I'll prepare the best tea for you," she exclaimed as they began their journey back to Alberhart Castle. Back at the castle, Rita and her trusted handmaiden Jana were in her room together. "No word from Julia yet?" Rita inquired from Jana as she sprayed perfume on her hand. "No, miss. I apologize. We've sent several calling cards," Jana informed Rita. Rita couldn't help but smile, thinking, seems Julia's too embarrassed to show her face after getting rejected from the royal guard. "Well, keep sending them until she accepts," Rita instructed Jana, who nodded, clenching her fists determinedly. Rita then picked up a pouch with a letter from a table and made her way towards Yursha. Yursha, seated quietly, glanced at Rita as she approached. Sorry to keep you waiting, Yursha, Rita apologized as she took a seat facing him. Yursha noted the familiar scent emanating from Rita. This perfume, it's from Tatum's, Yursha thought to himself silently. You see, I need your help, Rita said, smiling. Yursha, maintaining a cold demeanor, asked, How may I assist you? Rita then explained, Verta's parents have sent a letter from abroad. It seems they're in Tatum for an important transaction. Tatum is your homeland, right? Rita inquired, but Yursha remained silent. The room fell quiet for a moment, tension hanging in the air. Rita's demeanor shifted as she recalled her first encounter with Yursha. The memory of that fateful day when she saw proud Carter made her angry. Retrieving the blood-stained bounty paper hidden away, Rita scrutinized Yursha's face once more. This sorcerer, if he has the power to assassinate a sultan's mistress, he'll surely be able to help me, Rita murmured to herself. Determined, Rita made her way to Yursha's room and pounded on the door with urgency. What's all this ruckus about? Are you insane? A neighbor's voice pierced through Rita's banging, expressing discomfort with the noise disturbing the peace. Rita's response was sharp, filled with frustration and anger. So what if I am? Get lost, she cursed back at the angry neighbor, blood boiling with a mix of fury and madness evident in her eyes. Startled, Yursha's neighbor hastily closed his door, preferring to avoid any confrontation. Finally, Yursha cautiously cracked open his door to catch a glimpse of Rita. Upon seeing the unexpected visitor, Yursha's mind raced with thoughts. A girl? Is she a bounty hunter? He wondered. In her desperation, Rita forcefully pushed the door open, revealing her purpose. This is you, right? She asked, showing Yursha the bounty paper clutched tightly in her hand. I need your help, Rita stated, her voice filled with urgency. Yursha, without saying a word, sighed before asking Rita to come in. Once they were seated facing each other, Yursha broke the silence. My name is Yursha, he began, his tone calm yet probing. Meaning second flame born from the desert's most brilliant sands. And you? I'm Rita, she stuttered, her expression tense. They say you're a powerful sorcerer, Rita continued, wiping a blood stain from her mouth caused by a cough. Yursha's response was measured. If I am able to grant your wish, you will think I am, and if I cannot, I suppose you would think I'm a charlatan, he stated calmly. Rita clenched her dress. I am dying, Rita confessed, her grip on her dress tightening as her expression shifted to one of sadness. Can you save me? She asked Yursha desperately. Yursha's response was blunt. Do I look like a doctor to you? He retorted, rising from his seat, indicating his intention for her to leave the room. Rita's desperation escalated, and she hastily grabbed Yursha's arm. Then what about murder? How many people can you kill? She questioned, her face contorted with fierce determination. Yursha's demeanor turned cold as he observed Rita's desperation, her features betraying no emotion. The law of the world is balanced. If you wish to take one life, you must exchange it with another, he reiterated to her. Then I'll give you my life, then you can take another's, she asked desperately. How old is the person and how much time do you estimate they have left? Yursha inquired. Rita hesitated before responding, the victim is about 40 years old, with probably 20 years more to live. Yursha sighed deeply. You do not have enough time left. An unfair exchange will neutralize any spell, he informed Rita. Rita fell silent, deflated by the realization. Then, in a last-ditch effort, she asked, then what about a suicidal girl? A mischievous grin spread across Yursha's face. An idea has just occurred to me, Yursha said with a glint in his eye, and I think you'll like it very much. Back in the present moment, Rita felt grateful for having found Yursha when she needed him the most. Verta's parents are staying at the palace. They've even dined with the Sultan and his wife, Rita informed Yursha. Would you like to read it? She asked, sliding the letter across the table to him. Yursha remained composed. You did not summon me to discuss your parents' business in Tatum, he reminded Rita calmly. Why am I here? Yura questioned as she tucked the letter into his cape. I require a potion, Rita responded without hesitation. Not just an ordinary potion, but one that is difficult to detect, something only you can make. Yura raised an eyebrow. And the components? He inquired. Rita leaned in, her voice low. Make it a stimulant, not for sex. Something that will cause one to become as violent as a gladiator. A sly grin spread across Rita's face. My dear parents are far, far away. It's the perfect chance to get rid of my fiancé, she explained. Yura observed Rita's expression, noting the mischief in her eyes. Looks like she's about to ruin another one's life with that innocent face of hers, Yura thought as he sighed. Send someone in 10 days, he said as he rose from his seat. I'll have it ready by then, Yura instructed Rita with a nod of assurance. Thank you again, Yura, Rita said with genuine gratitude, offering him a pouch. Here. A gift, she added. Yura accepted the pouch and opened it, his eyes lighting up with delight. This is dried dates and cloves, argan oil and saffron, he observed, appreciating the thoughtful gesture. Rita explained that she wanted to offer something better but could only find these items in time. Yura inhaled the scent of the herbs with pleasure, a slight blush creeping on his cheeks. You are my savior after all, Rita declared confidently. I promise, one day I will help you return home. The next morning Rita woke up feeling content. It's the perfect weather for screwing someone over, she mused to herself. Did you sleep well? Jana asked, holding a bowl of water. I want to go out today, Jana, Rita said. Do you intend to visit the Shade Estate, miss? Jana inquired. But we're still awaiting a response from Miss Julia. Rita paused, with a displeased expression. Does this girl think Julia is my only friend, she pondered. No, today I'm going to the royal palace, Rita announced decisively. Rita and her trusted handmaiden Jana soon arrived at the royal palace, where they were greeted by a guard who also acted as their tour guide. I expected the royal palace to be glamorous beyond belief, but it's more practical than I expected, Rita pondered as she glanced at the elegant yet functional buildings around her. That is the executive administration building over there, the guard explained, pointing towards a building within the palace grounds. Suddenly the sound of someone walking loudly caught Jana's attention. Jana was the first to recognize the familiar face. That's... Jana began, surprised. What is it? Rita asked as she followed Jana's gaze. Rita observed Julia walking in an angry, commanding manner. It's infuriating enough to be rejected from the royal guard. But how long is Count Todd on sick leave? Julia thought to herself, her frustration evident. He should at least tell me the reason straight to my face. And after I made a big show of getting into the royal guard to that pretty little airhead Verta too, Julia thought angrily, her frustration evident as she stamped her feet on the ground. Julia, what are the chances we'd run into each other here? The goddess must be smiling upon us today, Rita's voice interrupted her thoughts, accompanied by a disarming smile that stunned Julia momentarily. Right, truly a stroke of luck, Julia replied, trying to regain her composure. Rita's smile widened. Oh, you must have come from the Royal Guards building. Did you come to see your soon-to-be future workplace? How wonderful, she said, her tone polite but with a hint of mockery. Rita clapped her hands loudly, drawing the attention of others nearby. Verta, please be quiet. It's rude to be so loud, Julia stuttered, feeling a bit ashamed by the sudden attention as she glanced around. Anyway, what brings you to the palace, Julia asked Rita, attempting to steer the conversation away from her embarrassment. I came to see my fiancé, Rita revealed with a genuine smile. Our marriage may be arranged, but I've developed a fondness for him, she added. I see. Well, I hope you have a nice time. I'm quite busy so. Julia said, subtly attempting to excuse herself and continue with her walk. However, Rita quickly grabbed Julia Shade's arm, preventing her from leaving. Where do you think you're going? Rita thought, her grip firm on Julia's arm. Wow, Julia, you're so amazing. Unlike me, you've achieved everything through hard work and passion. A real officer of the Royal Guard, Rita said, her expression genuine as she looked at Julia with admiration. Quit your chattering, girl. Julia thought anxiously, feeling a wave of fear wash over her. She was scared of being caught impersonating a government official, knowing it could lead to punishment and humiliation. Let go, Julia whispered urgently to Rita as she noticed a guard standing not far from them. Excuse me, Rita said, drawing the attention of the guard. Do you work for the Royal Guard? The guard turned towards them. Pardon? Ah, yes, that is correct, my lady, he replied politely. Then I suppose you'll be working together with my friend soon. You see, Julia here will soon be an officer of the Royal Guard. Please treat her kindly, Rita said, her tone cheerful but tinged with awareness of Julia's discomfort. Julia, feeling embarrassed by Rita's assumption, wished she could disappear. The Royal Guard, dumbfounded by Rita's words, blinked in confusion. Verta, enough, Julia finally managed to say, her voice strained with embarrassment. I was rejected from the guard. Pardon? Rejected? Rita asked, looking surprised. I apologize. I didn't know. That isn't the reason you keep rejecting my calling cards, is it? She asked, her expression puzzled. No, I've just been busy. You should hurry and go see your fiancé, Julia said as she began to take her leave, eager to escape the awkward situation. Yes, goodbye for now then. Let's have tea time soon, Rita replied, bidding Julia farewell with a smile. As Julia walked away, Rita couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Ah, that felt great. Next up, my pervert fiancé. Just you wait, I brought you a present, Rita muttered to herself as she entered the administrative building in the royal palace. Is this the executive administration building? Rita asked a guard politely. Yes, miss. May I ask what business you have here? The guard inquired. I'm looking for Sir Jean Lawrence, Rita replied. Ah, Sir Jean Lawrence. He works on the 4th floor, the guard informed. I can show you the way, the guard offered kindly, but Rita declined with a polite smile. No, I wouldn't want to impede. I can find it myself, she assured him before walking away, determined to navigate the palace on her own. What in the world is going on? Jean thought to himself. Including that time at the estate, she's been unusually forward lately, he observed, feeling a mix of curiosity and uncertainty. How nice it would have been if she'd acted like this since the beginning. Stupid girl kept changing her mind, not knowing what's good for her, he mused silently as he approached the door of the waiting room where Rita was waiting for him. He knocked gently. Come in, Rita said. Entering the room, she just looked at him. What a very pleasant surprise. What brings you all the way here? Jean asked Rita, a hint of surprise in his voice. You must be busy. Thank you for making time, Rita replied graciously to her fiancé. Of course, Jean thought to himself, noting Rita's return to her old demeanor of appearing pitiful and innocent. He couldn't help but feel a sense of disgust. The aroma of this tea is exquisite. Shall I pour you a cup? Rita offered politely. No, I'll do it myself, Jean replied curtly, taking the tea jug and pouring himself some tea. Rita sighed softly, indicating something was troubling her. What is it this time, Verta? Is there a problem? Jean inquired, taking a sip of his tea. Rita, unable to hold back her emotions any longer, began to sob. Jean's irritation grew at Rita's display of weakness. Now don't be like that. In order for me to help you, you must tell me what's wrong, he urged, his tone firm. I can't do this anymore. It's too hard. I'm begging you. Please call off our engagement, Rita spoke up amidst her sobbing, her voice filled with desperation. I cannot marry you, Rita said, tears falling from her eyes. Jean had lost track of how many times Verta had said those exact words. He sighed, unaffected by Rita's plea. Please say something, Jean, Rita said, covering her face with her hands. Jean, tired of her begging, responded, "Verta, you're well aware, regardless of what we want, this is an important union." Rita, still sobbing, stuttered, "How could you be so cold?" Jean calmly replied, "I've told you many times, this engagement is between our households. Is the reputation of your household that important to you?" Rita asked. "You don't even love me. Can't you let me go?" she pleaded. Resuming her fake sob, Rita covered her face but sneaked a peek at Jean, who sat absent-mindedly drinking his tea. Rita recalled asking Yura for a potion that is difficult to detect and can only be made by Yura. When asked about the components, Rita told Yura she needed the potion as a stimulant that could cause one to become violent. Rita wanted to use the potion to hatch a plan that could get rid of her fiancé. She knew trying to accuse Jean of attempted rape was too obvious and cliché. She needed a more decisive plan. Before Jean came into the room, Rita emptied the contents of the potion Yura prepared for her into the teapot, which was the tea Jean was drinking. "You're wondering why I don't love you," Jean asked Rita. "But you're so beautiful, I do love you," he said. In that instant his hands quivered, shaking slightly. "How is he so predictable?" Rita thought as she observed. "It hurts me that you don't see my feelings for you, Verta," Jean said. Rita thought that Jean had held out until that moment, but he wouldn't be able to hold on any longer from henceforth. "Then why did you force me to kiss Baron Jackard? You say you love me, yet you threw me to another man," Rita said, wiping her tears. "How can you call yourself my fiancé?" Rita shouted at him. "Enough, Verta," Jean said, rebuking her. "She's being decidedly irritating today," Jean thought to himself. His hand began trembling more than usual. In a bid to calm his nerves, Jean poured himself yet more tea, which he drank. "And now for the closing act," Rita thought to herself. "I know everything. The real reason why you do these things," she said. "What are you going on about now? Why are you talking about such nonsense today?" Jean demanded. You're lacking down there, aren't you?" "I saw everything," Rita said with a cold look. "What?" Jean said, perplexed by Rita's words. Rita remembered her encounter with Jean and Baron Jackard instantly. "I saw everything. You're so damn small and pathetic that you bring your friend to do it for you, right?" Rita said angrily as she sprang up to her feet. "What did you just say?" Jean asked, becoming more irritated and angrier towards Rita. "You eunuch bastard," she stuttered, cursing her fiancé. Jean couldn't believe what he heard. His anger began growing uncontrollably. Did it work? Rita asked herself. In an instant, Jean rushed towards Rita and slapped her, causing her to fall to the ground. "You brought this upon yourself. Understood?" Jean yelled as she clenched her cheek. "From now on, watch your mouth," Jean said as he left the room, shutting the door behind him. "I can't even put into words how insane that girl is," Jean said in anger before walking away. Rita looked at her face in a mirror. "He doesn't look like much, but he's stronger than he looks," Rita thought, observing the injuries on her face. "Even though I fed him a stimulant, it ended with only one blow. He's more patient than I thought for a pervert," Rita thought, a wide smile on her cheeks. Outside the waiting room, Rita wandered around the 4th floor, captivated by the aesthetics. "The sky is especially beautiful today," she said as she gazed out a window. Unbeknownst to Rita, Prince Van Brandt was passing through the building. Upon seeing Rita, his eyes lit up. He watched her looking outside as she was lost in the views. "Miss Alberhart?" Prince Brandt called out to her as he approached Rita. "Ah, it's an honor to meet you, Prince Brandt," Rita said, greeting the prince. "You don't have to," Prince Brandt said to Rita. Observing Rita's face, Prince Brandt was awestruck. He quickened his steps up the stairs to Rita. "What happened to your face?" Prince Brandt asked, holding her hands. "Oh, this? It's nothing, Your Highness," Rita said, attempting to conceal her scarred face from Jean's previous hit. She cursed her timing, not expecting to encounter the prince at that moment. "Did someone dare strike you, my lady?" Prince Brant inquired. I will have the culprit brought to justice. Just say the word, he insisted. Oh, no need truly. It was just a minor mishap, she fibbed. She couldn't allow him to interfere. Stepping closer, Prince Van Brant asked if she was certain, genuinely concerned for her well-being. You're very kind, but I really can't, Rita said quietly, her mind racing with the stakes of her plan. Forgive me, Your Highness, I must be taking my leave now, she added, as she smiled softly at the prince, causing his heart to race as he blushed. Yes, I understand. I pray your journey is a safe one, he responded, bidding her farewell. Rita hurriedly descended the stairs, eager to evade Prince Brant's further inquiries. Yet he remained unconvinced. That mark, no doubt someone struck her. But who'd dare lay their hands on a delicate lady, he pondered. Glancing up the staircase, Prince Brant noted Rita's departure from the 4th floor of the executive administrative wing. The presiding official there would likely have knowledge of any altercations, but he refrained from pointing accusatory fingers just yet. Back at Alberhart's manor, Rita stood before a long stair hall, fully clad in protective attire. Jana, visibly concerned, observed Rita's helmet and layers of clothing. The other girls? Rita inquired from Jana. They've all vacated the premises as you instructed, Jana replied, her voice tinged with worry. But miss, you went to all that trouble dressing up to go to the royal palace. Why in the world did you return in such a state? Jana asked in tears, puzzled by the injuries on Rita's face. Rita thought it prudent not to disclose her plans to Jana, knowing the shock might overwhelm her. Yesterday Jana had been inconsolable at the sight of Rita's slapped face. Today, revealing her intentions might be too much for her to handle. Rita attempted to bend down to adjust her boots but struggled due to the tightness. It's too tight, I can't bend over, she exclaimed in frustration. I'll do it, miss, Jana offered, swiftly slipping on Rita's boots for her. Rita recognized Jana as her sole reliable ally in her current situation. All done, miss, Jana declared after assisting Rita with her boots. As Rita surveyed herself, she couldn't help but feel invincible with all the padding she wore. Jana, Rita called out. Yes, miss. Jana responded. Wait for me at the bottom of the stairs. When I arrive, take me to my room and help me out of these clothes. Understand? Rita instructed Jana on what to do. Pardon? Yes, I understand, miss, Jana replied before rushing to the bottom of the stairs. As Jana descended the stairs, she couldn't help but wonder what Rita was up to. Perhaps she's preparing to lose weight as summer approaches? But my lady is already so slender, Jana pondered. Meanwhile, Rita observed her handmaiden's descent, contemplating the repercussions of her actions. The union between aristocrat families won't fall apart with just one slap on the cheek, Rita reassured herself before deliberately missing a step. I got myself slapped yesterday to find the strength to leap to the next level, she thought inwardly as she tumbled down the stairs in one swift motion. Miss! Jana screamed as she witnessed her lady crashing down the stairs almost immediately. Rita's body collided with each step with full force until she reached the bottom of the stairs. Good heavens, miss! Jana cried out, rushing to meet Rita. Another suicide attempts? Jana thought, alarmed by Rita's evident pain. Miss, Jana stammered through tears. Feeling the agony, Rita struggled to maintain consciousness. Jana, Rita managed to utter silently. Yes, miss, Jana responded. Do as I told you, Rita instructed. Pardon? Jana asked, momentarily forgetting Rita's earlier request to take her to her room and help her remove all the padding when she reached the bottom of the stairs. Yes, miss, Jana replied after she recalled helping Rita up from the floor. Rita winced in pain, but Jana cautioned, but miss, if you've broken anything, it would be best not to move you. Despite the discomfort, Jana assisted Rita in walking. Rita grimaced through the pain, reflecting on the efforts she had made to achieve her current body. She's right. After the lengths I went to get this body, Rita thought to herself. I should be careful with it. Despite feeling sore all over, Rita was relieved to conclude, fortunately nothing seems to be broken. I'm fine, just do it. Rita demanded, determined to proceed despite the discomfort. Just hang in there a bit, miss, Jana said gently, helping Rita towards her room. Rita finally sank down onto a chair, letting out a low moan of pain. Take my clothes off, she said to Jana. Jana affirmed sympathetically and began unbuckling Rita's helmet. Rita winced slightly as the straps came loose. I'm so dizzy, she thought to herself. Jana, Rita called, no ice packs. Do you understand? She demanded. Miss, Jana replied readily. Yes. I understand, she said. Good, Rita mumbled, her eyelids drooping. She drifted off to sleep shortly after, thinking, after all the trouble I went to, throwing myself down the stairs, it all has to pay off. The next day Rita woke up with her thoughts racing. Phew, it felt like I was at death's door. Mirror, please, she called out to Jana. Jana affirmed as she retrieved the mirror and held it up for Rita, who examined her reflection carefully. Rita lifted her hands to inspect her bruises, noting that they're not as serious as she initially feared, but still enough for her plans. What time is it? She asked Jana. It's 3 in the afternoon, Jana replied. Perfect. Make preparations immediately. I have somewhere to be, she requested, smiling despite her soreness. Soon, Rita arrived at Jean's castle and was greeted by the butler of the mansion. Miss Verta, I hadn't received word you were coming. What brings you here? The butler inquired, but Rita remained silent in response. Miss, you look quite unwell, have you seen a physician? The butler asked. There's no need, sir, I'm fine, Rita reassured him, brushing off his concern. Rita maintained her calm demeanor, gently holding her hand to her face as she recalled how she subtly accentuated her bruises with makeup. A doctor? After intentionally emphasizing all these bruises with makeup? Absolutely not, she thought. Come in this way, the butler invited, leading Rita into the castle. Eventually they arrived at a room. I apologize for arriving unannounced, but is Jean at home? Rita inquired politely as she took her seat. Unfortunately, the young lord is currently away on business, but if you're willing to wait, I'll send a messenger immediately informing him of your visit, the butler responded. Of course he isn't here. I came when I knew he'd be absent, Rita inwardly mused, satisfied with her clever maneuvering. Thank you, Rita said innocently to the butler as he bowed and began to take his leave. However, just as he was about to depart, Rita halted him, inquiring about Baron Jackard. He's here. Shall I call him for you? The butler offered. Rita smiled slightly, expressing her gratitude. The butler then left to summon Baron Jackard. Baron Jackard, feeling a mix of hesitation and apprehension, approached the door. Pausing for a moment, he then fidgeted before his mind drifted down memory lane. Baron Jackard walked alongside Jean, Jean's anger palpable. What an infuriating woman, Jean seethed as they strode forward. For her, alcohol is redundant. She's already drunk on her own misery. That airheaded cow. However, I can't help but pity the poor girl for being forced into a loveless marriage, he said to Baron Jackard. Jean gestured for Jackard to lean closer to him, to which the Baron obeyed, leaning in to hear what Jean had to say. So, instead of me, why don't you try to satisfy her? Jean suggested in a low tone. His tastes are as strange as ever. It's not pleasant to play along with his whims like this, Baron Jackard thought. Jean smiled, patting Jackard's shoulder reassuringly. Give her a look, Jean told the Baron. Jean entered the room ahead of him and Baron Jackard lingered outside, lost in thought. Still, up until now, he's only messing around with hostesses, but to think that he'd harass his own fiancée too, he mused silently. From the outside of the door, he caught snippets of their conversation. You don't love me anyway, Verta cried out, her voice carrying through the slightly ajar door. Baron Jackard peeked into the room, catching sight of the couple. Jean, Verta called out as she backed him. She's smaller than I expected. Certainly not a cow, Baron Jackard thought. stunned by her vulnerability as Verta turned. Are our family fortunes all that matter to you? She asked, confronting Jean as Jackard was caught off guard. Jackard was thrust back into the present, bewildered by their unexpected encounter. I never imagined we might meet like this. Just the two of us. No. Remember how we got here, he thought, perplexed. I can't throw away everything I've worked for over some silly unrequited love, Jackard mused silently, unaware of Rita's clandestine activities inside the room. Meanwhile, Rita busily concocted her own scheme, pouring a potion given to her by Yura into a cup of tea. Just as she finished, she heard a knock on the door. Hastily she hid the potion. Come in, she said calmly as the door swung open, revealing Baron Jackard standing at the entrance. Rita remained composed, though she sensed his penetrating gaze upon her. Moments from their encounter in the market flooded Jackard's mind, memories of Rita's plea echoed in his thoughts as he recalled her bruise on her hand, causing him to relent. Back to reality, with measured steps he approached the seat opposite Rita, his gaze averted, refusing to meet her eyes. As Jackard settled into the chair, still avoiding direct eye contact, Rita couldn't help but notice his avoidance. I'm sitting right in front of him, yet he can't even glance at me, let alone look me in the eye, she thought, sensing his apprehension. Deep down, she wondered if the Baron was afraid of her as she smiled. What brings you here? He asked as he broke the silence. I'm sorry for calling you here like this, but I have something urgent I must tell you, Rita said as he sat down opposite him. Please make it quick. I must escort the young master soon, so I don't have long, he said, not bothering to meet Rita's gaze. Rita poured a cup of tea with practiced efficiency, her movements steady despite the tension in the air. Then at least hear me out just until you finish one cup of tea, please, she urged softly. Jackard hesitated for a moment, then relented, taking the cup from the table. Just one cup of tea, and then I'll be on my way, he thought as he conceded sipping it. Rita just stared, her expression serious. Please speak, Jackard prompted, still holding the cup in his hand as he was stunned to see the bruises on her. A surge of adrenaline rushed through Jackard as Rita's plea took an unexpected turn. The poison, please give it to me, she begged him. It's the only way I can escape from Jean. I'm begging you, she said, tears streaming down her face. Stunned by her sudden outburst of emotion, Jackard rushed to Rita's side. What is this? He demanded, gently raising her arm to uncover the scars hidden beneath her sleeves. He knew they weren't self-inflicted. Rita winced as he touched her, pushing him away slightly. That hurts, she cried out, her voice trembling with a mixture of pain and fear. Holding Rita's face gently but firmly, Jackard demanded an explanation for the scars marring her skin. Rita hesitated for a moment, then lashed out in frustration. Do you like what you see? She asked bitterly, tears streaming down her cheeks. If you're done ogling me, please give me the poison, she pleaded, her voice filled with desperation. Whether it's by Jean's hand or my own, I'll end up dead either way. What do you care about? A knight's duty is to protect a lady, but you're not even a real knight, she said, stunning Jackard with her words. Jackard's anger flared. He treated Verta like a mere courtesan. How did a bastard like him become the fiancé of the daughter of the Alberhart family? He thought angrily. Rita watched him closely, noticing the change in his demeanor. Is the potion finally working? She wondered, observing the anger building up in his expression. Finally releasing Rita's face, Jackard's features betrayed his frustration. Please, before he returns, give me the poison, Rita implored, her voice laced with sorrow as she leaned against Jackard's shoulder, tears dampening his clothing as she pleaded. Rita deliberately pressed a kiss onto Jackard's shirt, leaving behind the trace of her lipstick. Baron Jackard flinched slightly before releasing Rita. I can't bear being hurt by Jean again, she confessed, gripping his hands tightly. Jackard, momentarily taken aback by Rita's bold gesture, felt a blush creeping onto his cheeks. Speechless, he walked back to the table and drained the remaining tea from his cup. A cup of tea as promised, he said, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. I shall be taking my leave now, he announced, before exiting the room. Rita's tears rolled down her cheeks as she didn't turn to watch him leave, instead allowing her emotions to wash over her in solitude. Outside the room, Baron Jackard strode with anger simmering within him. I lost my composure. That was very unlike me, he mused silently as he walked, seeking solace in the cool evening air. As he rounded a corner, Jackard collided with Jean, jolting him from his thoughts. What are you doing here, Jackard? Jean demanded, his tone sharp as he noticed the lipstick stain on Jackard's shirt. Instantly Jean's demeanor turned cold as he accused Jackard of inappropriate behavior with Verta. You were messing around with Verta already? How dare you put your dirty mouth on her without your owner's permission, Jean sneered, his eyes flashing with disdain. Jackard's fists clenched tightly at his sides, but he remained silent, refusing to dignify Jean's accusations with a response. Did you strike the young lady Alberhart? Jackard's voice carried an angry edge. Ah well, she was making such a fuss, so I thought I'd teach her a lesson, Jean responded with a malicious smirk. Why? Don't tell me you feel sorry for her, Jean continued, his tone dripping with contempt. Jackard's anger flared at Jean's callous words. This son of a gun, he seethed inwardly, struggling to contain his fury. You were more than happy to fondle her, so sexually exploiting her is fine, but hitting her is a crime, Jean retorted sharply, his voice laced with disbelief and disgust. Shut up and listen to me, you dog, he said. If you don't fulfill your responsibilities, I might have to consider other options for her, Jean continued, gently patting Baron Jackard's chest. I'm going to make her into a wretched mess. I can't have you. But before he could finish his sentence, a sudden blow landed on his face, cutting his words short. Jean fell to the ground, blood trickling from his nose. Without restraint, Baron Jackard continued to deliver punches to Jean's face, driven by anger and frustration. Quickly save the young master. Get that madman off of him, a guard shouted, prompting others to rush to the scene. Someone bring the clubs, another man called out urgently. Rita observed the commotion from the secrecy of the room she was in. My word, I hadn't anticipated the potion would have such a strong effect, she thought to herself. There's likely no need for me to intervene. Men swiftly intervened, striking Baron Jackard with clubs, aiming for his head and dealing heavy blows. Rita observed the scene from her hiding place, realizing that intervention would likely be futile at this point. From the looks of things, he'll be in the afterlife long before I can do anything. Just as well, she murmured softly to herself. Deciding it was best to retreat, she quietly returned to the room. Something caught her attention as she saw a plant in an awkward position. As she listened to the distant shouts calling for more assistance, Rita knew it would be some time before the chaos subsided. As Rita searched through the rooms, she couldn't shake the feeling that as Marquis Carter's right-hand man, Jean might have valuable information hidden somewhere. Upon opening a door, she stumbled upon something unexpected, a room filled with unconventional items. Rita's expression turned sly as she took in the scene. Well. He's a dirty pervert, she mused, noting Jean's peculiar interests as she smiled. Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure. If you enjoyed what you watched, please consider liking, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell. Your comments mean the world to us and help us improve. The next episode promises even more excitement and unexpected twists, so stay tuned as we embark on this thrilling journey together. Keep the anticipation alive, and we'll catch you in the next episode.